Hey everybody, it's time for the Grumpy Guy Show. This is Derek for episode number 53. We're shooting our mouths off. Recorded on May 30th, 2022. Tonight we have a very serious and relevant topic that we discuss with a special guest. Stick around, it's a very good show. Good evening everybody, welcome to the Grumpy Guy Show. I'm Derek McAllister.
And I'm Ryan McAllister.
And tonight we've got another guest. That's right, Dave is back one more time. Hopefully be more than once, but we'll see. 2 weeks in a row, that's pretty amazing that we've gotten a guest 2 weeks in a row.
We've done it before.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, in the fall.
I'll take your word for it.
When I had one friend 1 week and then another friend another week.
I'll take your word for it. I don't remember that stuff.
Pretty sure those were back to back.
I'll take your word for it. All right, so it's a holiday, and something that we're going to do this year. Tonight's going to be the last Monday that we do a recording on a holiday. And the only reason we're doing it is because we have a very pertinent topic to discuss. And waiting another week would just kind of, I don't think it would be good to wait an additional week on it, so... And, of course, Dave had some time free, and it was his suggestion, so we're going to go with that. But we only have two topics tonight, and we're going to jump right into the first one with one of our world-famous transitions.
Transition.
Ryan laughs at that, but he doesn't even know what it's from.
I don't.
Dave does.
That's your failure as a father, Derek.
Actually, I thought we had watched that. We're going to have to change that. Wayne's World's coming up, Ryan.
Oh, okay.
All right, so the first topic that we have, and sorry I'm looking off to the side because that's where my topics are. So with the Texas shooting that happened recently,
And the Buffalo shooting.
yeah, but specifically with the Texas one, they went and they were talking with, I believe the guy's title was Director of Safety. He had something to do with the Texas law enforcement, and he was going in and talking about what happened. And he made the statement of, were things done wrong? Hindsight? Absolutely, I can tell you things were done wrong. However, I can't fix the past, I can only fix the future. After he made that statement, they went and they talked to somebody on the street, and her comment was, he needs to retire, he needs to be taken out of that position. Oh, now wait a minute. Why exactly does he need to retire or be taken out of the position? He is admitting that mistakes were made, and that he's going to learn from that, and he's going to teach these deputies, or whatever they're called in Texas, I can't even remember, but he's going to teach them what they should have done. And he's going to teach the 911 operators what they should have done. It's a learning experience. You have to learn from every single experience. But, mistakes were made. Yes, lives were lost. Could that have been prevented? We don't know. If they busted in sooner than what they did, he could have just pulled on a trigger and let it go, and still killed the same number of people. We don't know. We don't know the situation. We weren't there. It's not like we have cameras that are showing us everything that happened, and they don't have, not only are there not cameras, but there's not a synchronized recording to go with those cameras so that we know everything that's happening all at once. They're going to review things, and they're going to change their procedures to make it better for the next time. But simply put, if somebody makes a mistake, that doesn't mean that they need to be fired or they need to be taken out of office or whatever, whatever his position is, whether he's appointed or elected or whatever. If he's elected, you want him out, vote him out. Easy as that. But, if you're one of those people who doesn't vote, then shut your mouth, because you're part of the problem. sorry, but if you don't vote, you don't have a say in elected officials or anything dealing with with elections. That's my opinion, and I don't know. I see Dave and Ryan kind of nodding. I'm kind of assuming they're agreeing with me on that, but
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely.
you know, but at any rate, I mean, just because this figurehead he's admitted that somebody made a mistake. Now, keep in mind, he was not there. He was not part of that. He's an administrative person looking at things after the fact. And he admitted that. He said hindsight. That's a key word. Hindsight means you're looking at something that happened in the past. He's admitting that mistakes were made. Is it his fault? I don't think so, but that's what happens now. Every time there's any kind of controversy, oh, that person needs to be taken out of office. They need to be fired.
It's not like he's involved in a cover-up.
Yeah.
Like he's saying, yes, there were problems. He's not saying, no, we'll have to look into it or something just to blow, he's owning it. He's like, yeah, obviously we screwed up. Like, how else can he answer it? But there are some people that would just,
screwed it up.
Some people would just be like, well, we need to do further research on what happened.
We need to look into it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But that seems to be the answer everybody has is, oh, get rid of them. It's not always so easy. They one of the big complaints you hear is when, a street cop does something wrong. They need to be fired. Well, there's a reason they're put on administrative leave. They're put on administrative leave because they're represented by a union. You can't just plain fire a union without a union employee, without an investigation. You have to prove your side of things. That's how it is. If you don't like that, well, then you need to find a way to make it so that these officers are not represented by a union. Good luck with that. Because the union is there to protect them from things, like, hey, I made a mistake. Well,
You're fired.
You made a mistake because your shirt's the wrong color today. You're fired. I mean, I say that with kind of a snicker, but that kind of stuff used to happen. That's where unions came in. That's why they started out. But so think about that, because that kind of leads us right to our next topic, which, as I stated, David suggested, and I've been avoiding for a while because getting a guest on to have a potentially different opinion hasn't happened. And Ryan and I, with him being my son, I mean, his opinions, at this point in his life, they heavily reflect mine. So, it wouldn't have been much of a discussion. But so now what we're going to discuss, and make it clear, I don't know Dave's full opinion on it. We're going to discuss gun control in the United States. So, Dave, it's your topic. So why don't you get us started out with your journey of things? Something that I'm not sure everybody knows. Maybe we mentioned it, but Dave was actually in the military. He was in the Army for several years. Not that it really sways his opinion one way or another, but it may. But keep that in mind as we're going through. So go ahead, Dave.
All right, thanks. And again, like you, I really don't know, where you guys stand. We've kind of just kept it quiet until this conversation. But for a very long time, I have been absolutely 100% pro-gun ownership. I owned a .22 rifle when I was 5 years old. My dad did not believe in BB guns. He thought they were just to cause damage. He also made it very clear that this would be in his room, and if I ever wanted to use it, I was to go get him and it was under lock and key as well. But if at that point he said, if I ever now find you in my room at all for any reason, you are not going to sit down for 2 weeks. The typical tough guy dad that we grew up with.
Yeah.
They weren't bluffing.
No.
You did something wrong. You were made physically aware that you did something wrong. So needless to say, he put the fear of God in me, and I was like, all right, I'm never, ever, ever going in that room without talking to Dad. So I've always had a rifle, pretty much my whole life. So when I went in the Army, I loved shooting. I loved that part of basic training, going out, they slap an M16A1 in your hand, which is fully automatic, and you just get to go to town. It was great. But now we're getting to the point where we're seeing mass shootings weekly, multiple times per month. And the biggest culprit is the AR-15. If you look at the gun used in almost, well, I shouldn't say almost all of them, in probably the majority, over 50%, it is an AR-15 style rifle. And I just don't understand why gun control laws have not been reformed to limit what kind of weapons are in the U.S. So what's your guys' take on that?
So what you're saying is you're not opposed to people owning guns. What you're opposed to is an assault style rifle.
Yes. Yeah, like I'm
I
not
agree with you
gonna
on that.
be on the edge to where I'm pounding the table saying, hey, even if you own shotguns, nope, they're gone. 30-30s, they're gone. People hunt.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with people owning guns to hunt, But you're not going to be able to take a 30-30 and walk into a school and kill 21 people.
Right.
You're just not going to be fast enough. I don't care who you are.
Right.
You can be Wild Bill Hickok. You're not going to kill that many people. To have a weapon that can hold 30 rounds, and you can't buy the AR-15s with the 30-round magazine now, but you can get the 30-round magazine. There's the internet.
That's what happened in Buffalo.
You can get it very easy. And that's another problem I have is you can get these style guns extremely easily. After this had happened in Texas, I read an article where the editor bought one in 5 clicks on the internet. That's all he did. 5 clicks, $1,900, purchased it.
Yeah.
That's insane to me that you can do that. Now, in fairness, it did go to a gun dealer. They would not ship it to his house. But all he had to do is go to the gun dealer and fill out paperwork for a background check. Yeah, you can say that's a good safeguard, but honestly, that kid who shot the elementary school was 18. He didn't have any kind of background issues. A background check really doesn't do anything. So to be able to say, here's an assault weapon because you've never gotten in trouble. Oh, you're 18? You're legal. You can.
Yeah.
That's a little insane to me.
Yeah, I completely agree. And one of the arguments that there is from the pro-gun people is that, well, the Second Amendment doesn't specify what types of guns. The problem is the problem is you look at when the Constitution was written.
Exactly.
It took 2 minutes to load a rifle.
That's exactly what I was telling my wife. Absolutely. You had to put in the powder, and then put in the wadding, and then put in the bullet, and then knock it all down, pick it up and shoot it, and then redo. It's a musket. It was 250 years ago. They had no comprehension of a semi-automatic weapon.
Exactly. The concept of breech loading didn't happen until the end of the Civil War. And you know, even then, I mean, the breech load is a huge game changer. But and Ryan, if you don't know what breech load means, that means you put the whole thing in a cartridge
Mm-hmm.
in, and then you just pull the trigger. There's no pour the. I mean, they literally had to pour
Yeah.
the gunpowder in, pack that down, then put in the wadding, then pack that down, then put the
Mm-hmm.
lead ball on top of it. And on top of that, those things were so inaccurate. You know,
Yeah.
Insanely.
at one point, I used to know how much lead that they went through every single day in the Revolutionary War. And it was all because these things were so inaccurate. You could be 10 feet away from somebody, point the gun so that it looks like it's going to hit them right between the eyes, and completely miss them. I mean, the rifling that there is in barrels now spins it so that it goes a straighter line.
Yep.
And it's not a ball. I mean, back then it was a ball, a round ball, which you ever played golf, they don't go straight. You know, they go wherever they want. And that's the issue that there is, that the issue that I have with these people who are just the Second Amendment, Second Amendment. Yeah, gun ownership is, you know, I don't say we need to take away guns, but we need to regulate the type of guns that people can have.
I think that taking away guns, period, is just should be the last resort. The last possible
Yeah.
thing that you should want to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you know, there's countries that have done it, like Britain.
Yep.
I mean, even the police don't really have handguns, so to speak, unless they're like, you know, the detectives or something. The bobbies carry around batons.
Yeah, they have to actually
Mm-hmm.
they have to have justifiable reason to get a gun out of a safe that's located at the, you know, at the station, and you know, normally by the time they get one, they could have beaten the guy to death with 100 cops.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but the problem is, as Dave pointed out, you can go on the internet and you can buy this stuff. So if you take guns away from everybody, that means the only ones that have guns are the criminals. That's
Well, but here's the argument against that, because
okay.
that is an argument that I've heard, um, and it's valid to a point. Because if you take away guns from everyone, people who deal with illegal things will obtain them illegally. I mean, that is a very valid point. Um,
That's how people get
However,
illegal drugs. People get. That's how people got abortions before Roe v. Wade.
but the thing is, not to um, paint them in a good light, but drug dealers are not the people going in shooting up the schools.
Yeah, I agree.
Um,
Correct.
and I think the thing you'd have to worry about, if you blanket said, okay, no guns at all, everyone has to turn in your guns. If you own a gun, you could go to jail for owning a gun. There's a few problems with that. First of all, the jails are already overcrowded.
Yep.
So are you actually going to put me in
Extremely.
jail if you come to my house and find a 20 gauge shotgun and say, oh, you didn't turn this in, we're going to put you in jail, you know, in an
Yeah.
overpopulated system already. There's just too many guns right now
Yeah.
to try to account for all of them. You know, and another thing, if you do take away everyone's guns, that will tell the criminals, I can break into a house now, and I'm not going to get shot.
Yep.
They might have a knife, but I've got a gun because I'm a bad guy. You know, so I do get the argument of taking away all guns. And I don't think all guns should be taken away. I think, again, you should be able to have weapons to hunt with, shotguns, your hunting rifles, 30-06s, 30-30s. I don't see anything wrong with having a revolver handgun. I don't see any problem with that. It's got 6 shots. It takes a little while to load.
Yeah.
After you use those 6 shots, even if you have a speed loader, you got to kick that drum out, empty out the brass, stick a bit, Um, but, even the handguns, like a Beretta that can hold 16 bullets plus one in the chamber or something like that, I don't know if those are really even necessary. That's a lot of damage. Granted, you have to squeeze the trigger every time. It's not an automatic weapon. But is there really justification for having a handgun that can shoot 17 bullets before you just eject the clip, put a new 16 in, and go again? You're talking you could shoot over 30 bullets in about a minute and a half. Minute and a half, maybe less if you pull the trigger fast enough.
Right.
So that's where it starts getting debatable, I guess.
Yeah, that's where the slippery slope is, and it's I think the reason we haven't seen any gun control yet is because really the politicians are kind of stuck there, Where do we draw the line? Where do we say, okay, this is not okay? And until we can figure that out, I think that's where we're going to end up having the problems. Because
I think we have the biggest problem because the politicians have their pockets lined by the NRA.
Yeah.
I think that's a big problem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's really a place where things need to start is in campaign reforms. I mean,
Yep.
Democracy is
And
relatively
lobbying.
Yeah.
Democracy is relatively corruption free compared to some other forms
That'll
of government,
never happen.
but there's still a lot of corruption. And the fact that these politicians spend half of their time in sponsored parties that are completely and totally private is a big problem. We should know, if it has something to do with politics, we should know everything about it. Who's throwing the party? What are the party favors? What's happening in there?
Without a doubt. How much are they contributing to the campaign?
Yeah.
Everything. Full disclosure.
Yeah.
I mean, in Houston, the day after the shooting or 2 days after the shooting, they had an NRA gathering, like a national convention. I don't know if you heard about this.
Yeah.
Trump was speaking there,
Of course he was.
saying that, oh God, I wish I wrote it down. It was the most asinine comment I had heard maybe in 2022 so far. And
If I remember right, it was something along the lines of the good guys shot the bad guys or something like that. The good guys had the guns.
He might have said that too. What I'm thinking, he said something along the lines of, the people who want gun reform are idiots. It was something along those lines. That's very loose paraphrasing for sure. He didn't say it quite like that, but it was something where you're just like, wow, you just said that after what just happened. Like, you couldn't even shut your mouth and not address that.
Yeah.
And here's the most ironic thing that I found rather humorous.
What do you expect? He's Donald Trump. He can't shut up.
This isn't what Trump said. This is what the NRA did for their convention. They said firearms were banned for the convention. Now, honestly, you're going to say everybody should have
irony.
guns. Everybody should have the right to walk around with guns. Oh, but no, we don't want anyone with guns here.
Nope,
The NRA.
no guns. We're the NRA, and we're not allowing guns.
That's hilarious. I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, these lobbyists are a big part of the problem, no matter what it is, whether you're talking about guns or any other politics. It's insane. And there's all kinds of rules and everything, but if the rules are broken behind closed doors, nobody knows they're broken. And that's the problem. As long as you have people that are doing it for money and power, I'm talking politics. As long as you have people who are going into politics for money and power, it doesn't matter what rules you have. They will find ways around it. And the easiest way to find ways around that, well, you just write the laws with loopholes that allow you to get through. And that's the problem. The people making the laws are the ones that can break the laws.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, not much can be done about it. Not without some form of revolution, which is, unfortunately, I've been saying for more than 20 years now. Before my lifetime's up, there's probably going to be a revolution. There has to be. We can't continue sitting here letting these politicians get richer and richer while the majority of the country goes broke.
Poorer and poorer.
Yeah. No laws are going to be made to balance out taxes between the rich and poor, because the rich support the politicians to make sure that happens. Just make sure that it does not happen. It makes the politicians rich, which means they're not going to increase taxes on the rich, because then they're increasing taxes on themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the gun control debate actually falls right into that.
Oh, absolutely it does.
I don't know. I keep thinking of George Orwell's Animal Farm there, where everybody's equal, except for some are more equal than others. And it really does apply here, because, everybody's equal. Oh, I put my pants on the same way as everybody else. Okay, great. But how did those pants get to your hands to put on? How are they getting washed? Are you washing them? No. You've got money so that you're not cleaning your house. You're not going out and cutting your own grass. You're not washing your own car. You're not putting your own gas in. You're not even driving your own car. Half of them don't even own a car. Why? Because they get driven all over the place. They got to have Secret Service because so many people are just so opinionated against them. And they don't realize that the reason there's so many people opinionated against them is because they're just lining their pockets. I think last year at some point, Ryan and I discussed the fact that these politicians, they go in, their net worth is like, $200,000. And then 10 years later, on a salary of like $120,000 a year, after 10 years, they're worth $4.5 million. Where'd that extra money come from?
Good investments, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, becoming a politician is a good investment. I don't know. But yeah, I'm happy we had this discussion.
Yeah, me too.
It seems that
was fun.
Yeah, it seems that we can see both sides of things. I don't believe that taking away all guns is going to solve the problem.
I agree with that.
I mean...
But I do believe that we need more restrictions.
Yeah, more restrictions. And one of the things that I keep saying is we need to fix the mental health issues that we have. Because if you look at a lot of these situations, there are people that have had problems. The guy in Buffalo, when he graduated high school, he wrote some paper saying something about how he wanted to kill a bunch of people. Red flag. And he made it through.
Well,
he made it through. And you would think that would have been a red flag when it came to, him getting the gun. That should have been part of the background check. So
absolutely, it should have.
The problem with the background check is that's just looking for a criminal record.
Yep.
He didn't have a criminal record,
it doesn't
but
do enough.
He had a mental health record. Granted, he was cleared, but that still should have been a red flag. And this is the kind of stuff, if we're gonna keep going the way that we are, we need to fix a whole lot of things. And the type of weapons that you're allowed to have is only one thing. But
I once watched a video that partially blamed the media for this whole cycle of violence.
yeah, to a
Because
point.
they don't censor out the person's face. They show the person's face. They show the person's name. This is how they did it, and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of a 15 minutes of fame type of thing.
Exactly.
I can see the argument because, you got some loser who's sitting there just thinking, how can I be known throughout history? And he sees that. Well, there we go. There's my ticket. Now
Yeah.
they can say my name along with, the kids at Columbine and everything else.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is news. So it's hard to argue.
Yeah,
I do agree that they probably shouldn't even say the person's name.
Yeah. Shouldn't say the name. Shouldn't say the motive.
yeah, I mean the motive, I don't know. I mean, I think making them obscure, making it like they never existed or they just disappeared, I think that's really a much better route, because then they don't get their 15 minutes of fame.
Exactly. Yep.
And you could even extend that to any kind of murder.
Don't mention the perpetrator.
No names. That's it. Goodbye. Who are you?
Right. It's in public record if you want to look it up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It
but
doesn't need to be,
Doesn't need to
mentioned
be
or
all over
even-
the news.
Some people argue that it's sensationalized, which I think that's kind of pushing it. I don't know that the news necessarily wants to sensationalize it just so, I don't think the news is feeding off victims. Like, a lot of people want to say that they sensationalize it just to get clicks, and I find that a little too cynical. I don't think the news outlets want to use victims.
I don't think this is one of
their
the
own
things
thing.
that the news sensationalizes. I do believe that they do sensationalize things, but
They
this is
do,
they
yeah.
don't,
For some things, they do. I do agree with
this
that.
is not one of those things.
yeah, I think they do to a point. It's not nearly as much as a lot of people say, but I think they do to a point, because they know that it's going to get viewers. Instead of looking at an online source, if David Muir is going to talk about it, they're going to look at that and they're going to watch that rather than looking and reading an article. So maybe.
I think they promote it, not sensationalize it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
that's-
they
that's
promote the
probably
hell
a
out
better.
of it
It's probably a better phrasing of it.
to an extreme level.
Yeah. Yeah, and
That's basically how all news is now. They promote it way too much.
yeah, and that's the get your clicks, get your money
Right.
business that it's become. I've said before, if Walter Cronkite were to look at these newscasters now, he'd shake his head and be ashamed.
Yeah.
I mean, Ryan, you never got to see him, but I mean, he was just read the facts.
Yep.
And, none of these newscasters do anymore. They have to throw their opinion in, and it's really sad. But that's the polarization that starts things. Like the gun control debate. I mean, these newscasters are throwing their opinions in there, and it's not necessarily their actual opinion. It's the phrasing and the tones that they're using on specific words that depict what their opinion is. And it's unfortunate, but I don't know. I've said a few times that I'd like to find a better national news to watch, but the problem is we watch the particular channel we do for the news because it's the best in Syracuse for the local news, which is really sad. But then, after that's done, you just don't change the channel. You leave it on there. So you end up watching the same thing, and it's really bad. But at least I do use my phone with the, I've got the Pixel launcher, so if I slide to the left, I get a news feed there, and I go through those a couple of times a day just to see, and a lot of times I'm just getting the headlines, but if something jumps out, okay, I'll look at it. Even if it looks like it doesn't agree with my opinion, because in order to argue something, you have to know the other side. And that's one of the problems that we have, is there's so many arguments that are, my way is right, and I don't care what your way is, it's wrong. It's really bad. But
Agreed.
all right. Well, guys, it was a very good conversation. Hopefully some people will actually see it and give us their opinions. Maybe we'll discuss it again sometime. Who knows?
All right.
But thank you, Dave, very much for bringing it up and joining us to discuss it.
Yeah, thanks for having
Thanks
me
for
on.
joining us for 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. First time we've had the same guest back-to-back weeks.
Yeah. Well, Dave and Denise were the first repeat guests. Dave's the first three-peat. We'll have to see if we can change it. There you go. So now we got to get somebody on a third time, just so that Dave will come back again. All right, folks. So with that, we'll see ya.
Good night.
Thank you, guys.